because I skipped ahead a little bit. So that's, these are a few other reasons, okay? So the reducing the estate tax, remember I just talked about that. That's if we set up an irrevocable trust, we do some tax planning, which again, I don't do a whole lot of. But the increasing the protection of the assets after her death, after the grantor's death. Another one right here is preventing a surviving spouse or child from squandering the assets, being scanned, or changing beneficiaries. So if a child is given money outright, as a will would do, so when the child reaches the age of 21, and we say 21 because of the Uniform Gifts to Minors Act, children under 21 cannot receive any more than $15,000. Otherwise, it has to be a special account and it has to go through the court. And it's also called probate, but it's guardianship court over the money. So just imagine you're 18, you're 21, whatever it is, and you end up getting $100,000. What are you going to do with that? I have a son, he just turned 26, and I know what he would do with it. As much as I've taught him about money, I know he would go buy something, and then he would say he's going to invest the rest, and he probably wouldn't. And I don't know that I would have done anything different when I was his age or when I was 18, 19, 20, 21. So it doesn't matter how responsible that person becomes when they're fully an adult, but that desire is there. And here's a check for $100,000. Oh, I can just spend half and I'll be fine with the rest. And then they don't have any money for school. They don't have money for whatever they need it for. So the trust can actually keep that can keep it for what it's intended on, and can have that trustee watch over that money so that it's there for the child when the child moves through adulthood. The other really great thing about a trust is it can protect the assets from creditors and liability judgments against the surviving spouse or the child. It's a spendthrift clause, which means, let's just say my son got in a car accident and he had a lawsuit against him. And they got a judgment against him for, say, $50,000 because he knew his dad was an attorney, and, you know, attorneys, not always the case. But they wanted to get a judgment against him. And they figured when I die, they'll be able to get it. So whatever I leave to him goes to a trust. And when I die, that trust becomes irrevocable, which means it's creditor protected. So my trustee would not sign a check for $50,000 over to my son. My trustee would instead keep that money in the trust and not give it to him, even if it was scheduled to get to him when he was 25. That trustee would hold that money and make sure it's safe and pay for whatever my son wanted. Okay, so it's a creditor protection only when the owner dies or the trustor dies. Okay, so second marriages, we can ensure inherit assets go to children from the first marriage. And that's kind of the case in my marriage. Not that we're going to do that, but I just wanted to give you the example of, I have a child from my first marriage, she has a child from her first marriage. I can set up a trust that my assets are used to help my wife until she dies, and then the rest go to my son. She could set up one that does the same thing. I've actually got 2 clients that I'm preparing those exact trusts for. 4 clients, 2 couples that have been previously married. So just a great tool to make sure your assets go to where you want them, when you want them, and not have to go through probate.